The aged care crisis has dropped out of the headlines and it's off the front pages, but it is still a crisis that has not gone away. Facilities are still seeing severely understaffed facilities. Getting staff, skilled and unskilled, is enormously difficult in the first place, and some centres are even having problems retaining the ones they've got. They're burnt out by COVID and they can get better pay elsewhere, and who would blame them? In the meantime, it's our elders who suffer. So what's the government doing? Well, Peter Dutton did deploy the Defence Force. Defence personnel were offered. That was the short-term solution, but any long-term solution from the government has been in short supply. The Skills Minister, Stuart Robert, even said it was up to aged care providers themselves to do recruitment drives overseas. So now, one of the country's largest aged care bodies, UnitingCare, has put a dollar figure on what it will cost to increase wages across the board. And that, of course, is only part of the solution. Joining me now live is the National Director of UnitingCare Australia, Claerwen. Thanks so much for your time. $4 billion to increase wages, and what would people be paid?
Thanks, Laura. It's great to be with you today. Yes, we are saying that an estimate of 25% uplift on the basic rate for aged care workers would mean about a $4 billion a year extra investment. So that's around $6 an hour on the $21 an hour rate that an aged care worker gets at the moment, which is just $1.29 above the minimum wage. So you can see how low the wages are in aged care. What we want is an investment to make sure that we have an adequately skilled and excited workforce who can come to work every day knowing that they get paid what they're worth to do the incredibly important job they do.
So, Claerwen, what's the problem at the moment? I mean, is it all these things that people are just tired? Staff are just tired from 2 years of COVID?
Well, there's a number of things at play here, Laura. Yes, indeed. We've had people who have been on the front line of the COVID crisis for 2 years. We have a workforce which is exhausted. We have many people who have had to leave. Their families have said to them, enough is enough. We can't have you sleeping on the lounge in the facility. We can't have you really coming home quite distressed because you are overworked. So yes, we've had some people had to leave for their own health and well-being. We have a number of people in our aged care workforce who are retiring, so you always get that attrition. But essentially, we need to make sure that we can have a workforce for the future which is adequately paid, and the pay actually comes into it. You know, we are talking about people who, with the cost of living we're seeing at the moment, may not be able to pay the petrol to get themselves to work. So it is, it really is important for us to look at remuneration of our workers to make sure that we can attract and retain people to do the important work they do. People come to aged care because they really care about other people and they want to do a great job. And it breaks our hearts and breaks their hearts often to say, look, I actually have to go. So the CEDA report has said that there'll be a need for an extra about 17,000 workers each year throughout the next decade. And so we need not only to retain the workers we've got now, but also to look at the future increased workforce that we're going to need because we have an ageing population.
Indeed. Claerwen, I hate to be cynical, but around election campaigns, you can usually press a little bit and get a bit more out of politicians. So you are taking this opportunity, and I hope you do, and every other centre around the country does. What is the realistic issue that you're facing? I mean, we have the government and Labor saying, well, we need to employ more people here, get more Australians into these jobs in aged care homes. But is the reality that you need so many people to go into the sector that they're going to have to come from overseas?
Well, I think migration and an overseas percentage of the workforce is obviously going to be part of the solution. But, you know, the fundamental thing is that these are the lowest paid workers in the country. And we need to address that. This is a crisis in that we are not going to be able to retain people in our workforce or even attract people if we just pay them such a small amount of money for the incredibly hard work that they do. It's not easy work. It isn't, it is hard work, but it is rewarding work. So what we need to do is really focus on a workforce plan that ensures that firstly we're able to pay people what they deserve and what they're worth, and then secondly retain them, appropriately skill them, and then grow that workforce. So yes, part of the solution is overseas, part of the solution is local. Particularly in remote areas of the country, we're looking at some solutions there which are about boosting the local economy through local employment. So there's a whole range of things that need to be done, but essentially we're saying that the very fundamental thing is the remuneration of the workers.
Well, in the short term, we saw the Australian Defence Force offered up as a solution in that immediate crisis. I'm told that as of Friday, only 219 personnel were in some of these centres across the country, but there was an offer of 1,700. What does that tell you in your experience? I'm not sure whether you have ADF in some of your facilities, but is it just too hard for some of these facilities to train ADF, which they do need to go in for such a short amount of time?
Look, I think the major part of the crisis was over Christmas and New Year. And so that was when we really needed the extra support from wherever we could find it, particularly the ADF. The ADF has done a sterling job in whatever facility that they've been in. And I know that one of our guys last week, they were doing some incredible extra cleaning work that was desperately needed right across a village. But at the end of the day, it's about matching like for like. And I know they've done whatever they possibly could, wherever they could. But the crisis we had was really back, about a month or so ago, where the ADF would have been deployed more than they have been now. So certainly where they've been deployed, they've been used. But the crisis that we had has eased a little bit. So I think that's why you've seen some of the less numbers within the facilities where the ADF have been used.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good insight into why that may or may not have occurred in many facilities. Before I let you go, Claerwen, don't we know all this? We had a royal commission into this sector and here we are and things haven't been done. Are you generous with your criticism or otherwise of government and political leaders about how long this does take to get fixed?
Laura, we did have a Royal Commission. That was a long and arduous Royal Commission that really shone a light on all of the aspects of the aged care system that have been neglected for so very long. So it was, 20 odd years of neglect, 20 reports. We've got a lot of work to do, We have a whole reform agenda that's got to be done well if we're going to get the outcomes that we need. We need workers and we need funding and we need to do all of these things in the spirit of cooperation and genuine understanding that our elders and our older citizens are really, really, really important. And we need to focus on ageism. We need to focus on making sure that we really understand the importance of our elders in our community. And until we do that as a community, we're not going to get the outcomes that we need. So, we have asked for a workforce partnership fund in the short term, and we're saying, Fair Work Commission, please, in your deliberations, make sure that you remunerate properly this workforce. And we're saying to any government that comes in after May that you make that investment that's really should be deserved in this country for our older citizens, especially given that we are an ageing population, that we have a significant look ahead.
How disappointed are you that the government hasn't made a submission to the Fair Work Commission?
Well, it is disappointing because we're all wanting to work in partnership here, but the government has made some promises, or not so much promises, I suppose, but they have said that they would look at this after the Fair Work Commission. So we're calling on anyone, whoever is here after May, you have got to invest in whatever the Fair Work Commission comes up with and more to make sure that we have the workforce that we need to care for the quality that we need for our elders for the future.
Claerwen Little, well said. Thanks so much for your time today. We'll speak soon.
Laura, thanks so much for your time. Bye for now.